from the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
We anchor on the facts, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage. Facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
Hello and thanks for joining us. This is Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. It's my pleasure to come here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the weekend edition of Atlantic Blowout. Now, we know that President Buhari is set now to address the Global Education Summit in London, so co-hosted by the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. Nigerians plead to increase the budget for education by 50% over the next 2 years and up to 100% by 2025, beyond the 20% global benchmark. As President Buhari also signs a commitment document at Global Education Summit in London, just as he has approved 8.5 billion naira, which is to be used in the groundbreaking research in medicine and other areas in 2021 on the National Research Fund, that's the NRF, a scheme financed by Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Now, we know that also it was in the news that NYC described as untrue report that nearly 200 youth corps members have been killed in Zamfara and Kaduna State, with 376 others being adopted across Northeast this year. Now, following the escalation in bandit activities, 83 students of Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna State is still in captivity for 24 days. Now, while 90 from Federal Government College Birni Yakiri in Kebbi State have been adopted for 41 days now. Wow. 125 pupils of Salihu Tanko is Milaya School, that's in Tegua in Niger State, still in captivity for 60 days. Let alone then, Boko Haram keeps 112 Chibok girls for 7 years and days. How about Leah Shaibu for 3 years, 160 days, has adopted 80-year-old first-class traditional ruler of Jaba community in Kaduna State, Danladi Madu, regains his freedom after 2 days in captivity. Where does this leave us? We look at the issues in the country, and people, the supposed leaders, are busy canvassing for 2023 election, when we are still battling and our children are being held hostage by these bandits. What is the security operative doing? And what is the leadership of the day doing to release all of this? We have the figures and it's still counting. I don't know how anyone will have their children or even a child in captivity for 3 years and others for 100 and how many days, and then let alone this. The Chibok girls, 120 still remaining. I'm sure by now they can't be schoolgirls anymore. It can't be schoolgirls. So are we sweeping this issue under the carpet and just as if we pretend as if nothing is happening? Or are we going to still sit down and then when the election period comes, they come with electionary campaigns to say, I will provide this for you, I'll provide that for you. The INEC registration is still ongoing. Well, I think the power to speak is in your hands. The time to make things right depends on how you will exercise your franchise come 2023. The fireworks is going on. Underground works are being done. The WHO is also working towards releasing all of the school children from their adopters. Just like a song in Lucky Dube of blessed memory say, there won't be schools anymore, all the walls are prison. Now the kids aren't going to school anymore. Just like Kaduna State government has shut down all schools due to this instant adoption of school children. There won't be schools for them anymore because they see the school now as a prison world where they go, and then they're not sure if they are going to come back to their parents or not. But we'll keep our fingers crossed, believing God and believing that God will touch them wherever they are to release these children so that the country can move forward. All right, after a long year break due to the COVID-19 travel restriction, President Buhari has resumed his usual medical trips to the United Kingdom. Now, this is in spite of the huge annual budget allocations to his official hospital at the Villa. Now, the federal government had budgeted 6.4 billion naira for the Aso Villa Clinic in the past 6 years. The analysts of the State House budget review that for every 1,000 to be spent on health care for 200 million individuals in Nigeria, the federal government planned to spend 3 naira on the president's clinic in the period of 2016 to 2021. In 2016, specifically, it was 1 naira to the president's clinic for every 100 meant for the health care of the entire population in Nigeria. Yet, it was in this year that President Buhari began traveling abroad for his medical treatments. There has been a constant increase in the amount budgeted for health in the last 6 years, 2016 to 2021. However, the federal government's highest budget of 2.83 billion naira for the State House Clinic was in 2016. Now, the same year, the smallest amount was budgeted for the health and the general public, estimated at 250 billion. All right, analysts will join me via Skype via Zoom to throw more light and, of course, digest and look at a value and look at the constant medical travel of our dear President Muhammadu Buhari. Although he's in London for Education Summit. He's in London for the Education Summit alongside other operators. Okay, let's just take a little of this info, a news update from our correspondent and see what our analysts have to say on this travel of President Buhari. My name is Chituga Diamond. Welcome to Atlantic Blowout. We'll be back. Stay.
We anchor on the facts, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage, facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
right, welcome back. Let's talk improving medical facilities and continuous medical tour about the presidency. After a long break due to the COVID-19 travel restriction, President Muhammadu Buhari has resumed his usual medical trips to the United Kingdom. This is in spite of the huge annual budget allocations to his official hospital at the Villa. The federal government had budgeted 6.4 billion for the Aso Villa Clinic in the past 6 years. Analysis of the State House budget revealed that for every 1,000 naira to be spent on healthcare for 2 million individuals in Nigeria, the federal government planned to spend 3 naira on the president's clinic. And the same year, the smallest amount was budgeted for the health of the general public.
My use of that word, going abroad for medical treatment. Now, I must quickly establish that healthcare is private to the patient, so that if I thought that I could get better treatment from attending or going to a healthcare facility outside of Nigeria, then it was allowed. It was permissible, particularly if I was a private citizen. But the moment I become a public citizen, a lot of my actions and inactions would most definitely affect the perception of the international community about my country. So I'm wondering, when the president of Cuba, once upon a time, Fidel Castro, was sick, he was admitted in Cuba. When the president of South Africa, once upon a time, was sick, Nelson Mandela, he was admitted in South Africa. We have seen presidents in America sick and do surgeries, and it's done in America. We have seen how that the Queen is treated in Great Britain. So I'm wondering why every now and again, in spite of all of the amounts budgeted, like you have just reeled out recently, when you were doing your introduction, budgeted for the state clinic, budgeted for health, the president, the number one citizen, the leader of Nigeria, still thinks that it is necessary, it's no big deal for him to jump out of this country every now and again to go attend to his medical health. You know the kind of excuses that are given us by some of his handlers. Oh, the president has been attending to this for a long time before he became president. His medical history is in the hands of this person who is outside of the country. And they make it look as though medical history cannot be transferred. Medical history is transferable. You can pass it from one medical facility to another within a country, or from one medical facility to another outside the country. Otherwise, why do you think people leave Nigeria to go do kidney transplant, to go do heart surgeries outside of the country where you do not have the facilities? In medicine, we believe in a protocol that is called the triage protocol, which means that if the facility that you go to by actions or inactions do not have the capacity in terms of equipment and capacity in terms of manpower to attend to that your medical condition, what happens is that facility must triage that patient to the next facility that has got those competencies. I.e., so you come to a private facility and you want to do, say, heart surgery. Now, most likely, you will not have the complement of surgeons that will be seated in that private facility to do that heart surgery. So the medical doctor of that private facility, after having done all of the investigations to determine and make a diagnosis, would therefore refer you to a tertiary center where that can be attended to. That's the trial system. So if our president was leaving the country to another center because of the fact that we do not have the right complement of medical doctors, we do not have the right complement of equipment to attend to his condition, that would be permissible. If the president was also leaving the country to another country just because of the fact that we understood that there were certain things that were important for his treatment that are not located within his country, we would understand. But even at that, Andy Akpotife would not understand, because a president who comes into office with failing health, if I was that kind of a president, I would be selfish and I would concentrate on building the healthcare facility in my country.
Interesting. Earlier you mentioned that when we continue with this plethora travel of medical tourism, we invite the international community into a private affair. I think that was done in 2018, where we have a study done by Lancet of Global Health Care on access and quality. And of course, Nigeria was ranked 142 out of 195 countries on the survey for healthcare accessibility and, of course, affordability. Imagine this, the position given to Nigeria, 142 out of 195 countries on the S-ray. Is this not supposed to put Nigeria into check based on what you said?
Absolutely. It feels like there's chaos in the land. Everything is gone topsy-turvy. So what we do not understand is that beyond all of this, there are security implications to having the president go abroad, go out of our country to go receive medical treatment. One, there are economic implications to having the president leave this country to go receive treatment abroad. There are political and social-cultural implications to having the president leave this country to go receive treatment. And I must be quickly add that is not just the president alone. Leadership in this country has failed us and has failed us in totality. Once upon a time, there was a governor who said he had built a very highfalutin hospital with all of the best of equipment. Oh, the hospital was world class. He didn't even say the hospital was African class. He didn't say the hospital was Nigerian class. The hospital was a world class hospital. Soon after he left office, he took ill. And he ran out of this country to go receive treatment for treatment that could have been attended to by a private hospital in his Akwa Ibom state. The point I'm making is that all of these leaders do not understand that the medical sector, the health sector, is one that has got capacity to generate income for our country. Go see what's happening in India. It has become a money-making machine, so to speak, for a lot of people. Private investors come together. Some of the best hospitals you have got in India are not run by medical doctors. They're not run by medical people. Private investors come together, put money together, consult and get the best hands in the different specialties in medicine to come run these facilities. And they are doing medical tourism. People run to India for kidney surgeries. People run to India for heart surgeries, for brain surgeries, for bone surgeries, for all kinds and forms of surgeries. And the Indian government indeed is making money. If you permit me, I'm going to break it down. There are several value chains that the leaders leaving this country abroad to go get treatment would affect in medicine. For instance, there is a value chain around the production of medicaments, the production of drugs, the production of consumables, the production of injectables, the value chain. Today, as I speak with you, my sister, there is virtually no medication produced in Nigeria. You know why? People do not see the need to do that or to invest in that. Because leadership runs out of this country every day to go receive treatment. I have said to some people that, see, our leaders have told us that they are not indeed citizens of Nigeria. Let me explain why I've said that. When you believe in a thing, you invest in that thing. Today, as I speak with you, their children are receiving education abroad. All of them, forget all of the gimmicks that recently one of the governors took his son to a public school. Forget all their children receive education abroad. One, their wives go abroad for tourism, go abroad for vacation, go abroad to shop. They wear things that are not Nigerian made. Forget some of them who you see as senators that you see wearing what we call senators here. The materials are not Nigerian made. They are specific about those materials. So we want the materials that are produced in this place, even those sewn here. So you are taking away from even the industry that should be benefiting. Now check it again. You will find that recently they go abroad even for their treatment. That tells you, a lot of them even have 2 passports. That tells you that they do not believe in the Nigerianness that they are all preaching. Because if you believe in it, I run a hospital, for instance, and if I took ill and I went somewhere else to receive treatment, and I have friends who are aware that I run a hospital and I'm receiving treatment in another hospital, do you think if I invite them to come receive treatment in my hospital, they would come? They'll say the reason Andy left his hospital to go receive treatment in another hospital would be basically because of the fact he understands that he does not have capacity to attend to himself in his hospital.
Terribly.
So why should I go to his hospital to go and receive treatment?
Terribly. But if you say that as a 2018 still,
yes,
it was recorded that Nigerian medical sector is currently suffering from brain drain. This is because most of our health experts are leaving the country to where they are highly needed.
Absolutely.
So if you say we don't have it, I think I want to disagree with you in that regard.
We do not have what exactly?
You said we do not have those with the requisite knowledge to actually carry out.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Nigerian doctors and medical officers are some of the best in the world. I make bold to say that without equivocation. I say that in pride. Nigerian doctors are doing well all over the world, in the UK, in Canada. As a matter of fact, personally, in the last 3 months, I know 6 nurses that have left here. Nurses who worked with me. 6 nurses. I can put them online right now that have left here. 4 of them to UK, 2 of them to Canada. Some of the best nurses that if you interacted with, you would understand that medicine and nursing was in their DNA. But they are leaving because of the fact that leadership is not serious about building the health sector in our country.
That brings me to one of the governor actually used as a yardstick to define the dilapidated nature of our health system. One of the things he mentioned is political instability. Then he also mentioned corruption, and fourth, the alternative mindset shift. Does this tie down to the reason why people are leaving? Because you said that we have the best, agreed we do have the best. But if we have political will, the political will to actually fix this, let's start with the tertiary health sector. As of 2019, the president have lamented that 3.2 billion has been invested into the Aso Rock Villa
State House Clinic.
And
she said there was no x-ray. The x-ray was not working.
No, not serene.
Yes.
Before she mentioned x-ray.
Yes.
So why do we channel all of these lacuna, all of these challenges and series of complaints coming from this sector?
It is because of the failings of leadership would rub off on every one of us. Like what the Bible says, when you anoint a person, you start from the head. And Aaron was anointed, and the oil flowed from his head to his beard and down. David was anointed, and it flowed from his head down. Every time there's an anointment, it starts from the head. Every time a country would work or an organization would work, it would have to start from the head. Show me the person who leads an organization, the person who leads a country, and I will tell you whether that organization or country will be prosperous. The mien, the attitude, the demeanor, the character of that leader plays. It goes a long way to affecting the entirety of everything. So if I'm the president of this country and where I sit, Aso Rock, the clinic where I sit, and monies are budgeted for it, my wife then says that the x-ray machines, there are no x-ray films, no syringes, nothing is working. You think if I was the president, I would have been sleeping over that? People would have been fired.
I was coming to that accountability.
Absolutely. But because of the fact that at least we were not told of what was done, Nigerians and humans generally is in behavioral science, unless you were pushed. Most people like to be lazy. I give you a typical example. If you were told to resume here by 8 o'clock, chances are that 70 to 90% of people may prefer to still be on their bed by 8 o'clock. But the moment the organization says there is a clocking system that would adequately compensate you, if you got here 8 o'clock or earlier than 8 o'clock, there were certain incentives that will be given you. If you got here past 8 o'clock, you are going to be punished. You would see that behavior amongst the staff of this organization would be regulated and checked. Ordinarily, you want to still be on your bed by 8 o'clock, particularly if it's raining. You want to still be enjoying your sleep. But because you understand that leadership in your organization has taken the gauntlet, has taken the whatever of the bull, to say the gauntlet, to say that when you get to this place 10 minutes past 8, we would harass you. When you get to this place 8:30, 9 o'clock, we would do certain things to discipline you. You find that every one of you here would adjust. That's exactly what happens world over. And it's not peculiar to Nigerians or to Africans. When you fail to institute command, control, check, and compensation mechanisms in any protocol or process, you find that the people will just behave like they feel. But to coordinate their behavior, to regulate conduct, you would see that people will adjust. I give another typical example. Water lines in River State, Port Harcourt, used to be a place that if you drove past there, if you're coming from Olo Obasanjo, and you got to that roundabout, you could drive straight and run into a vehicle that was coming from Garrison. Vehicles also are coming from Rumola. So that junction was one that different people came into, and often if you drive, you find that, oh, this one is quarreling, I'm supposed to be the one to pass. Oh, the police officer passed me. But guess what happened? There was regulation by the fixing of traffic lights. And it did not end there. Then there was now monitoring and evaluation around the traffic light. They then plugged certain officers around it. So that if you were coming from Olo Obasanjo and you saw red, you knew you were supposed to stop. If you were coming from Garrison and you saw amber, you knew it was time for you to move. If you're coming from Rumola and you saw green, you knew it was time for you to, you knew you should move. Now, if you moved when it was red, immediately you get to that place, you'll be arrested and the penalty will be meted out to you. That immediately regulated conduct. The same Nigerians, the same people from River State, who before Itato will drive into that place and there will be a lot of confusion there, a lot of cries and a lot of troubles around that area. Today, the same people are regulated, driving the same car, under the same circumstance. But you see, government has regulated conduct and behavior around water lines.
But I remain committed to the United Kingdom leaving.
Since I became Prime Minister, I've said we must get on and get Brexit done on October the 31st so that this country can move on.
Sir, my amendment is that Mr. President should be invited to come and explain the situation.
For the Nigerian government to stop killing its people and
Andy Akpati there, a public affairs analyst, throwing light into the president's continuous medical trip abroad instead of facilitating or equipping the hospitals in Nigeria. And again, one thing I picked out there is that believing in Nigeria is very paramount for everyone of the citizens of this country. We should protect Nigeria. We should make Nigeria a hub of all the businesses in the world. Like he pointed out, that people going to China for just surgery, kidney transplant, and every other day we see people advertising. They need 10 million naira for kidney transplant. They need this for heart surgery and this. And we should have the state-of-the-art equipment in our hospitals. The reason why Nigeria as a whole cannot do this. And he also pointed out something that the health sector can also generate a fund for this country. Now, I was having a discussion with someone and he's saying, look, Nigeria will train doctors and nurses for Americans, for people abroad to use, and they work there. So what is the essence of us having, just like the state governor, when he was flagging off one of the institutions, said that very soon that River State will be the hub where you look for professional doctors, and then they will come and be hiring doctors from River State to other parts of the country. Well, we look forward to that, but that's what we're talking about. If a state can have the state-of-the-art medical equipment, so I don't see why. In the Villa Hospital, the clinic in the Villa, they said nothing is there. Even sometimes the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, made a comment that There is nothing in the hospital clinic in the villa. All right, let's look at how this goes. Now, back to Rivers State and open grazing. Rivers State Executive Council has approved a proposed bill that will give legal backing to ban on open rearing and grazing of livestock in the state. The endorsement was made at a meeting at Government House in Port Harcourt on Wednesday, presided over by His Excellency Governor Nyesom Wike and the Attorney General of the state and the Commissioner for Justice. And the Commissioner for Justice, Zacchaeus Adango, spoke to journalists after the meeting.
That bill came up before Council for deliberation, and after exhaustive deliberation and discussion of the highlights of that bill, the same was approved by Council for onward transmission to the Rivers State House. In summary, once that bill is passed, no person will be allowed to openly graze cattle in Rivers State will find himself within the warm embrace of the law.
Adango also said the council approved a proposed Rivers State Residence Registration Agency bill that will make it mandatory for residents of the state to be registered, including any visitor staying in the state beyond 2 weeks.
Of course, you know that government requires a lot of information and data for planning, either in the phase of security, economy, social activities, and so on. And so we thought that it is necessary for Rivers State government to have a bill that will require mandatory registration of residents in Rivers State. In other words, that bill makes provision for the mandatory registration by every person who lives and does business in Rivers State. Now, that bill is going to establish an agency that will superintend the implementation of the provisions of that bill. So if you come to Rivers State...
Bako said that the council approved the construction of a modern...
In this executive council meeting today, decided and approved the construction of a modern abattoir at Mboshimni in Rumome. And the modern abattoir is going to be fully automated to be able to meet up with the needs of our state in line with getting proper meat. And this abattoir is situated on a 21 plot of land. It is by the seashore, so that people who are coming from riverine areas can also come in to get the meat from the abattoir. There will be land protection, seashore, and it is going to accommodate an administrative block. It is fully mechanized with warehouses and a mini market, a wastewater treatment plant, 2 secure larages, a clinic, and a veterinary hospital attached together, a meat processing equipment, and a shore protection.
Okay, we're going to take our talking points right now on the open grazing bill that just passed by Rivers State government. And I have joining me via Zoom the legal practitioner and expert, of course, Chief Justice Oguche. He joins us via Zoom. Hello, good morning. Hello, Chief Justice. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing today?
It's all right. Beautiful.
Okay.
Just enjoy your program.
Thank you so much for joining. Okay, very quickly now, what did you make of all this? I'm sure you had all the news commentaries, the intros, and all the issue on open grazing and the bill being passed on the floor of the Rivers State House Assembly. What do you make of the bill? You know, sometimes the southern governors also reach an agreement say, to ban open grazing. And now Rivers State is taking the lead again to pass it into law so that you can have a legal backing. What do you make of it?
Yes, I think it's a very welcome development. The Rivers State government has proved itself to be very proactive in matters of this nature, specifically with this open grazing thing. The southern governors had met earlier and were given the additions that open grazing be banned. I don't think it necessarily have to be made on that law before we understand that open grazing is anachronistic and it's archaic and it is uncivilized mode of cattle rearing. It is unacceptable in the modern time. The whole of the world, in fact, including Europe, animals used to be grazed openly and all that. But the world has advanced beyond that stage, and we are not going to allow some persons who think that they want to live 200 years or 300 years backward to come and impose themselves on society. The Rivers State government has taken a very proactive measure, proactive move towards stopping that kind of menace, to that kind of social menace, political and economic deprivation that makes people run side by side with cattle along the street. It's a very welcome development, and I think the rest of the states of the country will follow suit. It's not a matter of sentiment, but you cannot have animals being reared along the road or competing along the road with human beings. The Rivers State government has taken the lead, and it's a welcome development. I endorse it. I give kudos to the governor and to the Honorable Attorney General, Professor Azang,
okay.
for that bold.
Okay, very quickly. We know that one thing about passing a bill and is the implementation. You know, you give out instruction, you pass a bill, it endorse, then the implementation. What do you think should be, how do you think they should go about implementing and ensuring that this is adhered to, that the open grazing of livestock should be checkmate? What do you make? What do you think the best advice to give to government to make sure that it is followed to the letter, that the implementation, making laws and implementing it is a two-way thing that we have to also checkmate?
Yes, it is very important that adequate sensitization be made. As soon as the law comes into force, a lot of people will be properly informed, particularly those of them in the rural areas, because these herdsmen that carry cattle about, they are usually in the bushes. Sometimes they come into the towns and disrupt traffic. So sensitization is very, very key. And then again, the fact that we have security authorities, the police, the armed forces, and all of them, all over the place is another plus to it. They have to be notified of the new law and ensure that it's implemented. And I very much look forward to a law that will have very stringent conditions if it is violated, specifically in terms of conviction, that the persons must serve the full sentence. I'm very confident with the courts in Rivers State over their position on matters of this nature, especially if it is penned down into a legal document that is enforceable, that has efficacy. These are very important areas. And what is mostly important is to keep the forests, keep everybody out of the forests as much as possible. And this should be what should have happened all over the country. They wouldn't have all these herdsmen attacks and all these herdsmen going into communities at the late hours of the night to kill, to destroy, to pillage, and to rape women. And it has started in Rivers State. It's going to be implemented, I know very well, gradually across the terrain of the country so that we can have peace. This herdsmen attacks and menace has become a very big chip on our shoulders that it's very important that we abate it as much as possible. And Rivers State government has taken the lead.
Okay, okay, Chief Francis. Let me also ask you this. You know, now the bill is being passed, and I didn't hear where the commissioner, the Attorney General of the state, made mention of that the state government has created where they will, take care of their livestock, giving them a portion of land for ranching, or building a ranch for them to stay and say, look, before we implement or before we pass this into law, we have created a portion of land for you to do your grazing there. Then what do you make of that? Do you think that they should have done that first before passing the bill into law? Because once a bill is passed, it's assumed that it should be respected. So what do you think?
It is not the business of government to go into grazing, how people graze their cattle. It is private business. If you're going into that, then of course you make provision for those who are selling dogs and who are selling chicken and all that. No, it's not done that way. If you want to bring your cows from wherever, you have a means of transport. In one of your news lines, we are also informed that government has created an abattoir somewhere at Umuemwe. So
that's as most similar, yes. Yes, at Mbosimini.
No,
what I'm talking about.
Wants to buy.
Yeah. No, we know that the abattoir where we go to buy meat. You understand? It's just like what we call the slaughter. No, what I'm asking is if although I also look at it as yes. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you.
One thing is cattle rearing is a private. You cannot make it government business. If you want to make it government business, then we go into sophisticated cattle rearing, modern cattle rearing that will bring all those beautiful cattle from Australia and New Zealand and the United States. This one is purely a private business. Government cannot go into private.
Don't you also see that if the state government
it must be by legislation.
Yeah. And don't you also look at the avenue of generating revenue for the state as well?
I don't think.
We know. Can you hear me?
Well, if they want, I don't think it is proper. Modern government is allowing the privatization of these things, and I don't think it is proper for government to go and make provision for whatever, no matter the revenue to generate to the states, because the land, even though the Land Use Act says the governor holds the land in trust for the people, the land belongs to individuals and communities. So if the communities are willing and the persons are very much desirous of having a place to rear their cattle, to raise their cattle, it is up to them to put up an agreement or a memorandum of understanding that will bind them and all that, but not necessarily government coming in. Government has done what it's supposed to do, that there won't be any open grazing.
Okay.
And we know the antecedents of these headsmen. I'm very sure that communities and individuals will be very worried.
Okay,
to
fine.
have any direct business with them because they are opportunistic and opportunistic inclinations. Any dentist inclinations that we find very, very appalling and sometimes very dangerous. So it's not the business of government to provide any ranching whatever. If you want to buy cattle and there's no cattle in Aba, there's no cattle in Owerri, you go to the north, buy it, bring it to the abattoir, and bush and slaughter it, and everybody can buy.
Okay, Festus, let me also take you on another bill that was also passed too. The mandatory registration of residents in Rivers State. Do you agree to that, that it should be a data of everyone doing business and living in Rivers State should be fully registered, and any visitor staying in the state beyond 2 weeks should also be registered? What do you make of this other second bill?
I think that it's a welcome development. I mean, demography is very important to determine the direction of government policy, to determine what should form the objectives of state policy, to determine the economic spread of the state and how resources can be allocated. Very, very important. That's what gave rise to this modern times. But the only snag there is the one about 7 days or 2 weeks. Anybody
2 weeks or beyond, 2 weeks and beyond.
I don't think that is very necessary. If somebody's visiting for a short period of time of about 3 months or even 4 months, so there won't be any need for registration. That would be creating some bit of inconvenience for people. And I very much think that the Honorable Attorney General of Rivers State, Professor Zango SAN, will look at that particular piece of document, that provision again. But for the rest of it, it's a welcome development. The census has failed in this country, and it has become a matter of political determination or political issues that always raise a lot of controversy. And the River State government wants to have a data of the people residing within it, the nature of their business, what they are doing, and all that. It will, to a large extent, curb criminality, to a large extent, curb hunger and poverty and deprivation, because government will now have a very good idea of the population spread, of the unemployment level, of the level of all manner of things that government will want to intervene in.
Okay.
So, very much recommend.
Okay, let me take you on this question again, Mr. Festus. Okay, now it's a welcome development. Do you think that the state have the wherewithal to capture all the data of everyone living and doing business in Rivers State. Take, for instance, what's happening to our database now, looking at electronic transmission of election results, and the dramas behind these, the excuses that some lawmakers are giving. How do we, and even the population census, have we gotten an accurate statistics of the number of people in each state, let alone registering them? So look, you have to register. How do you think this is going to be possible to achieve all of this? And also, I look at it on the security aspect of it too, which may be the reason why this bill would have been discussed to checkmate the activities of people living and doing business in Rivers State. First is
Chituga, I think it will be underrating ourselves to think that we cannot provide a database in modern times that will take care of these statistics, to the extent that the National Assembly went and invited the National Communications Commission, and they came there and talked all manner of rubbish. At the end of the day, INEC told the world that we have the capacity and indeed the capability to transmit elections from all over the polling units in the country. So that's a big minus. You look at the fact that almost everything we do now are electronically based, the bank transactions, payment of school fees, payment examinations, and virtually everything you can think of. So when they begin to raise these issues about our incapability and the fact that we don't have the infrastructure here and there, I begin to think otherwise. And I knew that they can only bring that in election matters, because those of them that are there will not want to go away. Because if you give them a chance to contest for an election, they can't stand a chance. So to the extent that I know, yes, the infrastructure is there, the capacity is there by the Rivers State government to make this and to bring it to reality, and which is very, very important, because you cannot just be governing a people and you don't have a good sense of what they constitute or what they compose. That's the ideal of modern governance, and that is what has transformed Europe, because they look at every individual as important. Look at his needs, they look at his wants, they look at his motive, they look at his directions. And you can only get that back from the figures that come out from the database, So you just have to forget about census in this country, because it has been politicized from the 1960s. In fact, the first census that was conducted, they said it was modulated by the British in favor of parts of the North, and every other census has been having this kind of hiccup because they are politically based and politically manipulated, so to speak. The Rivers State government has taken the bull by the horns to get this one done for the benefit of the people of Rivers State and for the benefit of the residents in Rivers State, which is very much welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Festus. Thank you so much. But I'm sure you still stay online, because we'll go into our next discussion. I will still have your contribution on it. So basically, don't go away. Stay with us. This is Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. We'll go for a short break, and we'll come back and we'll get on the talking point on our next topic. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
But I remain committed to the United Kingdom leaving.
Since I became Prime Minister, I've said we must get on and get Brexit done on October the 31st so that this country can move on.
Sir, my amendment is that Mr. President should be invited to come and explain the for the Nigerian government to stop killing its people
Rianka on the facts. Breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage. Facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
Glad to have you back. It's the Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. And of course, we're getting into our talking points now, which brings us to the trending in the country in the last couple of days. Ibrahim El-Zamzaki and his wife Zita acquitted. Now, the Islamic movement of Nigeria has hailed the judgment of the Kaduna State Court, which discharged and acquitted its leader Ibrahim El-Zaki and his wife Zinat, who had been standing trial since December 2015. A statement by the president of the Imam Media Forum, Ibrahim Musa, described the ruling as a victory for truth and justice against training and impunity by the Nigerian government. The Kaduna State High Court on Wednesday discharged and acquitted the embattled leader and his wife after charge bordering on culpable homicide, disruption of public peace, and unlawful assembly, among others, brought against them by the Kaduna State government. In the 8-hour judgment, Justice Gideon Kurda upheld the no-case submission filed by the Shiite leader and his wife. I have joining me here, right in the studio now, Barrister Courage Nsurimovu, who is also a legal expert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you in a short time.
I'm also glad to be here. This is my debut in your studio.
Oh, yeah, you should say that. So yeah, maybe we'll be having you more regularly, you know.
Of course,
so when we get resource persons like you, expert in the issues, we throw more light and give people more understanding on issues that they will be lost in following up the activities of Welcome once again.
Thank you
now,
very
before
much.
we go into Zamzaki's issue now, a bill of open grazing has just been passed in Rivers State. What do you make of it?
As the bill being passed, I thought it's an executive bill that has been presented to the legislature.
On open grazing, ban on open grazing.
Yes, ban on open grazing, which means it will go through the entire legislative process.
What do you have to say?
Oh, basically, it's a welcome development. You know, we like to come into issues on perspective of rights. Now, there are arguments that people have a right to freedom of movement as enshrined in our Constitution. Hold on. And also, they also have a right to do business. But to all the rights in our constitutions, there are limitations, there are restrictions, there are derogation. And this is also, of course, you saw during the pandemic last year, there was lockdown, which, of course, was an interference to our right to that freedom of movement. The
in,
point
in the spirit of detriment of people's life.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that our rights, no matter how fundamental, constitutional, there are circumstances that allows the government and the system to restrict those rights for public good, public order, public morality. And this issue of open grazing is one of such situations where the right of one person is beginning to affect the right of another person. So you have your cattle moving about, destroying people's farm, and not just the destruction of people's farm, there is an attack on the lives of people. Yeah. So this is a welcome development, and we are excited about this because the whole essence of law is for order in society. The law is for man. So if there is a situation where the life of man is threatened, the business of man is threatened, and his livelihood is threatened by another man, then society must rise up through the government that we've elected into power to do something about it. So basically, it's a welcome development. It's a step in the right direction, and we're excited about it for the good of our people.
All right, thank you. Very quickly, we talked about also through a little light into President Buhari's constant medical trip abroad. He laughs. Why are you laughing? What allowing me to learn now? Where do this leave the medical sector in Nigeria? Well, one of our resource person did say that it has some political and socio-cultural implication. Yeah. That even the health sector, it ought to be generating fund for the country. But again, some analysts also say he's going for that under the disguise of Education Summit. You know, he actually.
Now, when you call it under the disguise, you're beginning to make a case on the other side.
Not making a case now, but you know, people in the news, speculation though. But what we see plays, we know that President Buhari also is in London for Educational Summit.
Yes.
Which also the spokesman said he will also undergo for medical checks. So two things in one, just like using one stone to kill two birds. So what do you make of it?
I mean, the undertone, or if you like, the innuendo there is that there is a failure in our health sector, and if everything is well, that means the president ordinarily would have been, dealing with his health in Nigeria, because, of course, statistics shows that Nigerians have the best doctors abroad, in diaspora. Yeah. So if things are fixed, we may be able to attract them back into the country, and then the physicians or persons who take care of the president will be the best in the world. So it's bringing them back home and also keeping our capital back home. So that is on the one hand. And on the other hand, I may not join issues with the fact that he's going for an educational summit, which is because what I heard about that educational summit is also to bring in inflow of capital into educational sector. So it's also a good one.
Okay. Okay, it's still Atlantic Blowout. So we still have Barrister Gucci on Zoom, and our second guest too. We will take a look at issues bordering on moving Nigeria forward. Don't go away. We'll be right back in just a moment. Please stay with us.
But I remain committed to the United Kingdom leaving.
Since I became Prime Minister, I've said we must get on and get Brexit done on October the 31st, so that this country can move on.
Sir, my amendment is that Mr. President should be invited to come and explain the situation. For the Nigerian government to stop killing its people and
anchor on the facts, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage, facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Thanks for staying with us. It's still Atlantic Blowout on Atlantic Television Network. Now, the Kaduna State High Court on Wednesday, like we said before, discharged and acquitted the embattled IMA leader and his wife of charges bordering on culpable homicide, disruption of public peace, and unlawful assembly, among others, brought against them by the Kaduna State government. In the 8-hour judgment, Justice Gideon could upheld the no-case submission filed by the Shiite leader and his wife. I have joining me via Zoom, of course, Barrister Festus Oguche is still there, and also in live studio here, I have two legal practitioners, two legal experts, Barrister Courage Nsirimovu. You're welcome to Atlantic Blowout.
Thank you very much.
And also joining him is now our in-house analyst, Barrister Henry Ekini. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
having
me.
you.
Very good
And
morning.
I think Festus is still there on set and waiting also to be part of this show too. Festus, I hope you're still there. Chief Festus is still there? Okay, he will join us and then he's there. Okay, very quickly.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good to hear from you.
I'm very much here.
Okay, good to have. I have your colleagues, your learned friends here with me in the studio. So even though you've told us now you're a chief. Okay. All right. Let's quickly now go to Barrister Courage. Courage, You know, Al Zaki's issue has been around for a while, and discharge, acquit, go, you're guilty. Days, all the dramas that is the truth. There's protests, release our leader, and that destruction of what probably just as they've been accused. Now, what do you make of this? In all of these years, Al Zaki and his wife had been taking those under house arrest, because I heard sometime the Minister for Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, did say that Zaki and his wife are very okay and comfortable and safe in their domain. And what this means is the federal government has been taking care of all of their bills, everything that it takes to make someone comfortable. Resources has been, you know, how would I say, infused, or money spent, and everything, medical, comfortability, what have you. And at the end of the day, they find nothing against them. They are discharged and they are acquitted for no case submission. What do you make of all this?
First of all, if we look at our constitution, Section 35 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it clearly states that every citizen of Nigeria has the right to liberty. And of course, this right to liberty, like I said initially, can be limited in some circumstances. Now, if, for instance, a person has been, suspected of having committed a crime, and in this case, if you look at the charge, it's culpable homicide, which is something related to death and, of course, death penalty. And in such circumstances, the gravity of the, alleged offense, in quotes, is one that the court ordinarily would not easily grant bail, even if, of course, the Constitution says innocent until proven guilty. So, however, this is the situation he has found himself. And then 4 years down the line, there is a decision of no case submission, which simply means the security agencies did not do a good work, even the prosecutors. Because before you go to court with a case, you should have, except it has become a political trial, or maybe some way there has been a political negotiation. And again, it also questions our criminal justice system. Why would a trial run for 4 years? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, over that period of time, it is clear that his fundamental right to liberty has been infringed. So, it's left for, of course, his team of lawyers to begin to seek damages against the federal government. Yes.
Pastor Kenny, are you of the opinion that the lawyers should seek for damages for
prolonged detention?
Yes, apparently at any time, in any circumstance, that the fundamental right of any citizen is being violated or haven't been violated or is likely to be violated, those three circumstances, and you show that to the court, it follows automatically by our constitution. That's the excellent provision of the provision of the constitution, section 46 precisely, to the effect that if the fundamental right of any citizen as guaranteed under chapter 4 of the constitution is violated, then of course damages follow, and not that is even public apology. Those are extant as in express. So if that's the angle that the team of lawyers are looking next step, haven't had this long process, and then with all of the intrigues of the violation of the rights of these citizens, and then more especially, haven't gone through the process of criminal trial, and then in meaning totally, if we have to really critically look at what it means that there's a local submission, an interlocutory application I would kind of perceive, and then it's the ruling to that effect. It means that, do we therefore say that from the outset they ought not to have even been put through this process?
Exactly.
So if that's the case,
Exactly.
then it opens even the door to a possible cause of action that could be malicious prosecution. That is, there has to be a prosecution, which of course it's taken like 4 years of prosecution. There has to be an end to it, that prosecution has come to an end. And in what way? In this way that is being exculpated. Then it's possible that there's that window of probably enforcement of his fundamental rights, or even a civil action for malicious prosecution, and both of which will give him an opportunity for damages.
Okay. Yes. All right, let's hear from Festus now. Festus Oguche is there. Are you there? Hello, Festus? Okay, Festus, unmute your audio so that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, Festus, very quickly now. Can you hear me? I need him to speak to me.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Clear.
Okay, very well then. Now, your learned friends here also said that there's a fundamental human right of Zamzaki and his wife has been trampled upon, and his lawyer should swing into action at this point. What do you make of the no-case submission for Zamzaki?
Well, first of all, let me start by saying that there's nothing like freedom of movement for animals, for beasts. That is akin to.
No, we've sorted that out already.
I know. I just wanted to pitch in that you cannot. It's just akin to allowing the snakes.
No, he never said. He never said the freedom of movement for animals. He said the Constitution provides for freedom of movement for persons. The INA said not for livestock. So that is all out just by the way. It's been sorted out.
All right.
Yes, we're moving forward.
Now, straight to your question.
Yes.
The El Zakzaki saga is one that is rather very unfortunate. And the fact is also that the government gave a very over-bloated proceedings and painted a picture of a very dangerous criminals that need to be put out of the society, and took a whole 6 years for prosecution. Within that period, there was bail granted by the Honorable Justice Gabriel Kolawole of the Federal High Court to him, and the bail was not obeyed. Subsequently, the judge, Honorable Justice Gideon Kudara, also ordered that he be allowed access to his medical physician, to his physician in prison. The gentleman in charge of the correctional center in Kaduna bluntly refused to abide by that order of court. Subsequently, the court ordered that he'll be allowed to go to India for treatment. And upon the order of court, the Kaduna state government also gave its own conditions for bail. Part of the conditions is that the federal government will assess the medical facility, will liaise with the Indian government to ensure that he doesn't apply for asylum and all that. A court of competent jurisdiction had granted bail, had allowed somebody, an accused person who is suffering one form of medical challenge to assess this thing in India. And the government of Kaduna State came with its own conditions. I think that.
Okay. All right. Okay, Francis is there. Okay. We'll get back to Francis. Basha Courage.
Yes.
You heard what he said. So.
Of course.
Where does it leave us now? Because now you know. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Yes, you're wrong.
They charged him under a law. He was arrested in 2015. They charged him under a law that was enacted in 2017. Which, under the law, we know it's an ad hominem legislation. And it is not permitted. It's the fundamental principle of law that you don't apply the law retrospectively. Are you with me to do that?
Yes, you're wrong. We're here.
Yes. So they now brought it, and at the end of the day, they looked at the facts, and it was discovered that the prosecution did not bring a scintilla of evidence connecting him or his wife, roping him with the crime, the so-called crime they said they have committed. As a matter of fact, the persons that committed that crime were the soldiers and the rest of them who killed about 350 persons on that day. And we have a situation also where we have a criminal trial, and the judge, if you look at the judgment of that court, the court said that that charge shouldn't have even come up in the first place. In the course of the trial, two senior soldiers were in court. They gave evidence. For the prosecution. If you look at the evidence, it is totally wishy-washy. So all the while we've been fed with the bogus notion that we are dealing with a very dangerous sect leader, a man who, if you let it go, the whole world will blow into blazes. And we have him there, and at the end of it, it is discovered that there's no crime. They don't have one single credible evidence to nail this man and send him to jail, which is totally and completely unfair and wrong.
Okay.
So it is not just the cost of their whatever in the of the government or whatever, but the pain and suffering and deprivation this man has suffered is with his wife, members of his sect who have been killed, his children who have also been killed, the deprivation of the authorities to his over all these years. That is what is important.
Okay, Faustus, thank you so much for your contribution. Now, two things here now. I don't know the two soldiers who testified in court. Now, you said something here before that it means that the security operatives who didn't do their findings properly, if the court will discharge Elza Zaki and his wife for no case submission. So now what becomes of these two soldiers? Where does this leave them? Who testified against them? Where does this leave them?
I think he raised an issue of malicious prosecution.
And he also said, and he also raised that
if you like, false information, most likely. We don't have the evidence before us or the statements of those soldiers before us for us to make conclusive decisions here. However, if it is found out that whatever information they had put out is false, and if it's something that demeans his character or goes to defamation of his own character and all of that, it's something that, of course, his counsel can also look at and begin to work on and see how that can be addressed.
Okay, Barrister Kenny?
Let me in trying to explain what I perceive and understand as no case submission and what possible situation it could be. Interestingly, it may not absolutely mean that the alleged offense didn't happen in the case of trial. What a no case submission means is, right now, whatever may have happened at the scene of crime may have happened. We have come to court. The court wasn't there. The court will determine or arrive at any position of determination subject to the findings of or his analysis of evidence before him. So a situation where your evidence is tardy, your evidence is not credible enough to ground a conviction. That is, yes, you may have some piece of evidence. You may have some persons coming to testify one way or the other. They may be telling stories in connection to what may have been alleged to have been committed by the defendant. But that the evidence as adduced, whether oral or documentary or any other form of evidence, is not such that can justify a conviction in a criminal proceeding, meaning that it is not so clear that can take off any kind of doubt, because the burden is that it must be beyond reasonable doubt. Now, witnesses called, a number of them. The prosecution may have, because my colleague mentioned perhaps the investigators or the arresting authorities and the security agencies probably didn't do their work well. Sometimes there are even instances where the investigators may have done their work. But in presentation, again, it becomes now the issue of the prosecution in being diligent in presenting your evidence and your case before the court. If you're unable to present a coherent case with your evidence so organized in a manner that can be credible, you're calling witnesses who probably are not even aligning in their testimonies. And then in criminal proceedings, any doubt, howsoever minute, is settled in favor of the accused person. So perhaps the witnesses you call up to come testify in your matter, even when the investigator went to full prosecution, where Elzazaki would have struggled with his defense counsel to put up a defense, to probably be able to demolish whatever evidence that the prosecution has put. This one on the face of it, that, hey, what you have presented so far, does not even recall. In fact, do you know that even the court can, on its own, sumoto, call on a no-case submission? The Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and of course law, also empowers the court to that effect, that in some cases in criminal proceedings, the extent to which the prosecution may have advanced evidence and closed its case, the court will see that nothing has actually come close to establishing conviction based on the facts on the charge, and even as so advanced in evidence.
Okay.
So it's really an unfortunate situation.
Okay, let me just
let's hear from you now. Where does this leave Elzazaki and family at this point now?
Basically he's a free man now, so of course he can go.
I hope they've actually allowed him to go home.
They've allowed him. We saw it on news yesterday.
I haven't seen
they
that.
allowed him go home, so he can go about
that's
his.
Some good news there.
Yeah, he can go about.
One thing is to acquit you. One thing is to. One
see,
thing is to acquit.
Now this
another
issue,
one is for you. For you living freely.
Yes, this issue raises the question of rule of law in our democracy. Why will a court of competent jurisdiction make an order for a person to be allowed to go, and then the government on its own, in disobedience with that lawful order?
What has been happening? This is not the first time. This is not the first time. Remember the
so
case
it
of
tells a lot about our system.
Remember Dasuki is there.
Yes.
So it's not the first time it's happening. So
it's
that's
absolutely
what I'm saying. It's some good news for
it's
Elzazaki and his family.
It's absolutely wrong. You know, if you come back to how this whole thing started, the confrontation between the army and his purported followers, which led to the death of some, army men and all of that. So the simple reality is that they were not able to link the death of those soldiers, allegedly, of course, to Elzazaki.
Okay.
So that's just basically what happened.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Pastor Oguche, are you there? Okay, your final word now, just in 30 seconds. We have to go.
No, the thing is that if you look at the judgment, the judge said that the charge shouldn't have been brought in the first place. So it is not even a matter of whether there's the probability that if the entire hog of proceedings had gone in and maybe the no-case submission had not been brought in, there's any chance of any conviction. And also remember that that law of the Kaduna State government of 2017 was created solely for the purposes of that trial and to maybe see how the gentleman can be roped in. Ad hominem legislation is totally disallowed in our jurisprudence. It is even the same way with every other jurisprudence and jurisdiction all over the world. The trial of Elzazaki is not something that's supposed to be. The people that committed the crime are the ones who are now the complainants and what have you. And my good friend Siri Muvu talked very very well about the new habit of the authorities keeping somebody after he had been released. The same thing happened with the 7 gentlemen who were charged to court who were arrested at one church in Abuja the other day.
That's Dunamis 5. The Dunamis 5.
Yeah. Yes, the court ordered.
They have been released.
And the DSS took them back. They had until they were charged to court, and the court also granted them bail. They were granted bail. Their release was subsequent to a bail granted by a magistrate court.
Okay, we have to go now.
Totally wrong.
Yeah, we have to go. All right, thank you so much. Barrister Faustus Chief Oguche, who joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much for coming on Blowout.
Thank you.
Always.
All the
Thank
best.
you. All right. I also have Barrister
Right.
Courage Nsirimovu, who joins us here in the studio. Thank you so much for.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And also our analyst in the house, Barrister Henry Ekene. Thank you so much for coming through.
Quite appreciate it.
Okay. Atlantic Blowout continues in just a moment. Please don't go away.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
But I remain committed to the United Kingdom leaving.
Since I became Prime Minister, I've said we must get on and get Brexit done on October the 31st so that this country can move on.
Sir, my amendment is that Mr. President should be invited to come and explain the situation. For the Nigerian government to stop killing its people and
We anchor on the facts, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage, facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains. Through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Many thanks for staying with us. Nigerian Instagram celebrity Rahman Abbas, popularly known as Hush Puppy, has pleaded guilty to money laundering in a United States court. Hush Puppy, whose real name is as Rahman Abbas, was arrested along with other suspects in Dubai last June over defrauding someone in connection with the school financing deal worth over $1 million. Hush Puppy was then extradited to the U.S. to face charges. A statement from the U.S. Attorney Office says his plea document reveals that he admitted to his role in the school finance scheme and other fraudulent activities, including what is known as business email comprises the scheme, totaling $24 million. Whoa. I have joining me via Zoom Chukuma Okewa, a public affairs analyst. He joins us via Zoom. Hello, Chukuma. Hello, Chukuma. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Glad to have you join us here. All right, what do you make of, well, let's use the name Hush Puppy because that's a trending name and that's the name everyone knows him. But for avoidance of doubt, Rahman Abbas, what do you make of his pleading guilty to all the charges in the U.S. courts?
Well, of course, that is expected because given the extravagant lifestyle of the young man, there wouldn't be any way he can excuse for all of those excesses, for the lavish lifestyle involving boarding all of the time, private jets, wearing the costless designer materials, and oftentimes to the kind of to the charming of young Nigerians, young Africans that are rather excited, about the lifestyle and many people wishing to be like him. And now he's pleaded guilty. Of course, that's a right step in the right direction for that case to go ahead. Because of course, for you not to plead guilty, you certainly need to come up with your claims. Otherwise, to maintain that. So I think he probably, his own self and the legal team may have reviewed their chances in that and concluded that the best thing to do is to agree so that there can be a headway forward in that particular case.
Now, we also seen in the news too, his accuser, Bakari, of being part of the deal because, some people want to say, look, Hush Puppy is not in this alone, comparing to the amount of money involved and then other things. That's just like you've also commented on the extravagant lifestyle he's living. What do you make of it? And Kerry had denied that he had nothing, he had not taken any bribe from him. What do you say?
I followed the defense of Abakari, claiming yes, there was a time a certain 300,000 was paid in to one of the tellers, and of course that was transacted in his office. I couldn't really make out anything credible out of that. But given the way and mannerism this young man has gone about those businesses in time past, not only flaunting wealth, but also like posing for pictures with governors, top dignitaries in Nigeria, holding a business meeting in quotes in the UAE in Dubai, one of the luxurious places that most young Nigerians dream to be someday. So looking at that level of clout, because I think that at that height of position, where you could have a governor, before a governor could give like such kind of endorsement, as that as meeting with somebody out of the country to take pictures. We are not talking about running into someone at an event to have selfie, but you are posed in a relaxed place, maybe taking coffee, discussing. I think the leader at that height should have been concerned about the person's source of wealth, especially when the person is a celebrity in quotes. It is known and there has been that suspicion of where really is the source or the capital base of this person's wealth. I can tell you with the way he was flaunting wealth, one could guess that even when you talk about the top richest Nigerian, maybe top 10, none of them has.
But he never made any of the list. Are you saying now that?
He never did.
Are you saying that Hush Puppy must have some high place ranking big shots in Nigeria that are sponsoring him? That you met a governor and you're having a picture over coffee or discussing. Does that mean that maybe the governor or whosoever will question why he's living such a life? So can somebody see a celebrity and want to have a selfie with the celebrity? What's wrong in that?
Well, of course, the question is, if Hush Puppy, we tag him as a celebrity, of course, he is.
He's a Facebook celebrity.
An Instagram celebrity.
An Instagram celebrity.
The question is, what was he into? I mean, when you talk about Davido, you know he's an artist. You have those that are footballers and all the rest of it. So when you see someone dining all of the time, traveling all of the time, showing wealth up and down, the question is, what was the major source of his revenue and income? And as for whether the powers that be, in one way or the other, were complicit to this, I want to say this in two measures. Wheels, like I pointed out, anybody can meet a county governor and have a selfie. But we are talking about like fixing a meeting with an executive governor. You are not meeting with a person as special advisor on economic diversification. You are meeting with a person as an Instagram celebrity, not to come and even host show in the person's state. The question we should ask ourselves is, what value does Hush Puppy has to deliver to any governor? And even the then Senate president that was also.
What are you implying? Why are you implying, Chukuma? You know, with your statement. What exactly are you driving at?
Yes, what I can tell you. Yes, more or less like Kings. Yes, what I want to drive at, which is very important. First, the fact remains that there is a measure of amount of money that lands into someone's account. And if you don't compromise the system, including the EFCC, including the banking sector, including having those that will help you to do the clearing and forwarding, those persons that do, that are into grafts, to the tunes of millions of dollars, you cannot do that without collaborating with the relevant agencies. Now, let me even give you an instance. For instance, if you go into your bank and as an individual you want to make a deposit of beyond, like above, I think it used to be 5 million before, now it's up to like 10 million. So if you want to like make a single transaction of 10 million, of course, you know, that will be sent directly to both the National Financial Intelligence Unit and of course EFCC. Even your bank will advise you paying the money installments, you know, so that you don't get to like alert the relevant regulatory agency.
Okay, Chukuma. Now let me take you to Anambra. Some weeks back, we witnessed another extravagant spending of Obi Kubana's mom's burial. Are you saying that the way he was throwing money and the lavishing, you know, the party, that EFCC should come after him and or people should start asking questions that what is he into, or checking his bank account, or he doesn't have right to throw money up to the point, you know, okay, as alleged that even the Minister of Information was asking that Obi Kubana should borrow Nigeria money. That is one side at the side. So what do you make of that? Because if you talk about extravagant life, I think that's one of them. You should also come into the, or you want to compare that of Obi Kubana and Hush Puppy?
Well, first, let me start by comparing. Obi Kubana, like we know, is a night entrepreneur. He has lots of clubs and, of course, hotels. Perhaps maybe before the government will go after him, it's not there for the government to look at the tax remittances, right? He claims, look at his books to see whether that in any way coincides. I believe for anyone that is into legitimate business, you pay your tax. You don't do anything illegal, like things like clubs and hotels where people can go relax, all right? It's not illegal. These are things that like could be tagged as legal business. But beyond that, in a same nation, even spraying of money, I know that you know there is an act against that, right? You know that you don't spray Nigerian money and all the rest, but we don't respect that.
Or step
and
or
with
dance
the
on
volumes. Yes, but I can tell you the simple truth is one very basic truth about Nigeria is that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. I tell you the simple truth.
I don't know what you mean by that, but you should be able to now, because we have to run. Let's just hit the nail and let's know where the whole of this is taking us to.
Yes, like what I'm trying to say in essence is there are nations that will not happen. Even if you want to make like donations, right? It's fine. You donate, but like to talk about the nation's currency, you know, starching it, throwing it to the point that people that visited were even picking, you know, to go there. Because the law stands against trade, but not bundling. It was really quite massive and also like infected the society. But I do hope such conversations could actually help us to have a rethink and to reposition our young persons to have like the ideal role model